Good evening, everyone. Um, Wishing you all a very happy International Day Against Homophobia. Thank you for coming along this evening. This is a big first for us. It's a big event. So forgive us if there are some technological glitches. Um, I think we've got 32 in the room, so I think we'll make a start. Just before I begin, I'm just having a look at my screen here. There's a little bit of housekeeping, but thank you all very much for coming along today and to take part in International Day Against Homophobia and Biphobia and Transphobia. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tessa and I'm the Executive and Governance Officer of the Forum, or Forum Plus, and I'll be sort of hosting and coordinating, or trying to, the event this evening. So before we start, we recommend that you select speaker view in order to see the speakers and performers in the large screen. If you want to see all the attendees, then the gallery view is available. But if you want to get a good close-up of what's going on, please go for speaker view. We're going to record the event, and we'll be taking some screenshots throughout the show. So if you don't want to be included in any of the images, please switch off your screen, and then you won't be seen. There is a chat bar at the bottom which can be turned on, so please do say hello and comment throughout the programme. And the other thing is, it's really important, please can you mute your microphones throughout the proceedings, because if you are unmuted and a little bit of noise comes through the microphone, you will appear on screen and the person performing won't be seen. So you will be the star of the show for a time being. So it'd be great if everyone can mute, please. And then at the end of it, we'll be unmuting everyone to give a big round of applause. So I think that's the housekeeping over and done with. So I'll just say a little bit about the forum. We're a small charity based in Camden and Islington. We provide support for LGBTQ people in both boroughs, and we deliver services to the local authorities to help with their community safety and equality objectives. We put on events throughout the year with the aims of raising awareness about LGBTQ life, and we want to create safer communities for all. We also offer advice and support for LGBTQ people in Camden and Islington for people who work or socialise, who've experienced a hate crime, or they're getting harassed, or they're experiencing discrimination because of their sexual orientation and or gender. So if you need or know anyone who needs support or advice on any of these issues, do contact the forum and we will do our best to help. We've received a couple of warm words of support from the Mayor of Camden and the Mayor of Islington. I'll just read those out quickly. They were on the PowerPoint slide earlier, but this is from the Mayor of Camden. She says, it's a shame that I can't be there to stand shoulder to shoulder with you on this day to commemorate International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia. Whilst public gatherings are currently cancelled, the fight for equality will never cease in Camden. In full solidarity, Councillor Mariam Eslam Doost. And from the Mayor of Islington, we have a proud history of standing up for LGBTQ rights in Islington. Although we must continue to work for total acceptance and full equality throughout wider society, Ida Hobbit gives us the opportunity to celebrate all of the milestones we have achieved together as a wonderfully diverse and inclusive community. And that's from Councillor Rakia Ismail. International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, Biphobia occurs every year on May the 17th, and it's the date to mark when in 1990, the World Health Organization removed homosexuality from the 10th version of the International Classification of Diseases. That's the big black book which psychiatrists use to make a diagnosis. So for many, many years, up until 1990, homosexuality was seen as a mental illness. Thankfully today it's not. So in marking the day, LGBTQ activists at the time intended it to be a call for action all around the world. And this year's theme, Breaking the Silence, is that call to action. By all of us coming together today, our voices will be so loud that all our LGBTQ sisters and brothers across the globe will hear the sound of hope and solidarity. So today, we've got some really wonderful people joining us. They've kindly given their time and they're going to give their voices as well for today's event. And I'd like to start by introducing our first guest, Lisa. So Lisa, hello. If you're on mute, unmute yourself.
I don't think I'm on mute. I'm unmuted. Yes?
We can hear you. Hello.
Hello.
I missed a whole great big chunk here. I'll just give everyone a quick bio. Lisa is one of the founders of Stonewall UK and has spent over 30 years campaigning for LGBTQ rights, both locally and internationally. Lisa was the first openly LGBTQ person to speak on gay rights at the United Nations in New York. And she was also Secretary General of the International Lesbian and Gay Association. She co-founded the Pink Paper and spent more than 14 years at Switchboard. So, hello again, Lisa.
Hello.
It's lovely to have you here, and thank you for coming on, and we'll have a nice chat, I hope.
It's lovely to see everyone here, especially there's a few familiar faces dotted around on this celebrity squares. Yeah,
it's great, isn't it? I think that everyone's getting to grips with this tech. It's not so difficult. I'm certainly getting used to it anyway. In the introduction, I mentioned you were the first openly LGBTQ person to speak at the United Nations. What was I think was it in 1991?
In 1991, when I was Secretary General of the International Lesbian and Gay Association, and we were actually applying for observer status at ECOSOC, which was their Economic and Social Committee in New York at the UN. And we had two Secretary Generals, me and a guy called John Clark, and the two of us went and we spent a week at the United Nations, and we unfortunately coincided with the start of the first Gulf War. But actually, within the UN building, we were almost as controversial as the Gulf War, which was kind of scary because it was like, I don't know, it was like the devil had walked into a cathedral or something for some people. Now
I heard there was some pretty unpleasant things said at the time.
Yeah. Well, I had to go up. They decided I was the one who was going to go up and speak because I was quite quick on my feet. And there were a number of ambassadors or whatever they were called who were very, very homophobic, and they were very homophobic in what they said to me. So, but each time they addressed a remark to me was my chance to say something back. So it was one of those things where, for example, the ambassador from the Sudan, I think at one point called me an abomination on the face of the earth. And I had to say, I thank the ambassador from the Sudan for his remarks, and I would like to say that, and then say what I was going to say anyway. It was a bit like being interviewed by the BBC when you're a major politician. You just carry on with what you're going to say, no matter how insulting they get.
I gather the interpreters were a bit embarrassed by it.
Well, the weird thing was, almost all the interpreters were LGBT. Because if you're gay and you're from the well-educated classes in a country that's quite homophobic, then going to the UN is a really plum posting and a plum thing to do. So actually we were surrounded by LGBT people who were completely in the closet at the UN, and they were all giving us advice about what to do. And one of the things that grounded me when I was being insulted by these ambassadors at the UN was actually to think that it was much worse for the person who was having to translate me and bite their tongue and just keep translating these horrible things. You know, it was no skin off my nose because I was getting an opportunity there, but it was hard for them.
So I think it's changed a lot since then.
Oh,
So
hugely.
what were the big issues of the day? There was, of course, the HIV crisis, but internationally, what was going on? So you were going there for the observer status.
We were basically going there to try and get some visibility for, as we would have said then, lesbians and gay men, actually to start raising the issue. Because ILGA at that stage had only just started to negotiate even with the European Union. I went to some early meetings with commissioners from the European Union as well, and it was like suddenly there was a two-headed dog in front of some of these people. They really had not met out lesbians and gay men before, and for us to be standing up in their place of work and talking about our rights was a complete novelty to them. And yes, there was a lot of AIDS phobia around at the same time. I mean, we're talking about the turn of the start of the 90s, and really it was still very unpleasant. There was a lot, but there still is stigma around HIV, but it was much worse then. And it was really closely intermixed with homophobia. And it was really interesting as a lesbian to be faced with all this AIDS phobia and AIDS stigma, you know, which was so clearly really just an extension of homophobia. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been happening to me as a lesbian. It was really, really weird. So yes, there was a lot of that going on. And realistically, just at ILGA at that time, we were just starting to reach out. I think we had one guy from Japan and one guy from Thailand, hardly anyone from the Asian subcontinents. It really was quite a weird mix. There were a couple of people from Africa, other than South Africa, which had representation. It really was the very beginnings of the international movement and just starting to raise some visibility. And of course, from those countries which didn't have a lot of out people, it was largely men who were coming forward. Although the lesbians from South America were bloody marvellous. Really great, noisy, stroppy dykes. I loved them to bits. And once they appeared, the lesbians from everywhere else were absolutely brilliant. But that was the tail end of my time.
So it's changed a lot since then. So how did you get on to ILGA? Because I'll be going to the UK in a bit, but you sort of went from sort of quite local to international.
Well, I got sent to an ILGA meeting by Olga, who was not a woman. It was the Organisation for Lesbian and Gay Action, which was one of the main organisations fighting Section 28. And my girlfriend was the chair of that. I mean, it's pure nepotism. So I was just volunteering. And the administrator's girlfriend also was offering to go out and do they were sending people out to speak internationally about Section 28 all over the place. There were loads of invites that we couldn't fulfill. And her girlfriend got what we thought was the plum job of a speech in Barcelona. And they sent me to Oslo. And I was like, oh, Oslo, even in the summer, it's bound to be cold. And actually, Oslo was having a heat wave. And it was this thing that none of us knew about called the International Lesbian and Gay Association. And I came home having been made Secretary General, which I think gave everybody a bit of a shock, including me. So that's how I ended up going to the UN. I owe that to Section 28. They wanted to show that the rest of the lesbian and gay world was in solidarity with the UK. So they made one of the UK people the lesbian Secretary General.
That's amazing. That really is.
You've got to take your chances where you find them.
Definitely, because you moved from Lancaster down to Islington.
I moved to London in the mid to late 70s. And actually, bless you, saying I've been doing this for 30 years. I've actually been an activist for 45 years. But so we'll gloss over that. But no, I came down here and I started squatting in Islington, and then I moved into a short life house, Islington Community Housing, for people who may remember it, which was £2 a week rent. Can you believe it? Each person paid £2 a week, and the council gave us semi-derelict houses, and we had to make the most of them, try and get the toilets working again or whatever, and get some basic stuff done on them. And we could live there for £2 a week. So I lived in Islington. I volunteered at Gay Switchboard, as it was, from 1979. And that was amazing. I have to say, Gay Switchboard was the best finishing school for lesbian and gay activism, as we would have said at the time, that there could possibly have been. It was the descendant of the Gay Liberation Front, which had been in the same offices at Caledonian Road, and it still had the same cell structure and volunteering ethos, and grassroots ethos that the Gay Liberation Front had bequeathed to it. And it was incredible. We were operating 24 hours a day at that time, and you have to remember, this is pre-internet. You never knew what was going to happen next. So it was an amazing education to be there and to listen to LGBT people from all over the UK and sometimes from all over the world.
What do you think it is about Islington that made it the hub in the UK, I suppose, for LGBT campaigns? And what really stands out for you when you were in Islington? Because you live in Wales now, don't you?
I do. I live in Cardiff now, but I lived in Islington for a long time. I was only driven out by the house prices, frankly. And then I went to East London for a bit before coming here. But I loved Islington, and I think it's that classic, it's not quite inner London, but it's close to inner London. And that thing of slums that start to become gentrified, and LGBT people are always there. We're always on that slightly margin of society, but we then give it so much class that it becomes posh again. I mean, when I moved into Islington, it was not posh, and everything went on there. And things like that conspire, they build up. So we had Bob Crossman, who was the gay mayor of Islington, and loads of things came out of that. And then there were gay pubs there. Central Station now was the Prince Albert, and it used to have the Gay Liberation Front discos in it. And then when I joined Switchboard, all of the interviews for Switchboard were held in the Prince Albert. So it's like attracts like. You start to have a few things and you get more and more. And Islington was the hub of queer London for decades.
It's still got a very vibrant gay community. The venues might not be there anymore. We've still got Central Station, thank goodness. But of course, before that was the first Pride in Highbury Fields. So it was a demonstration, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a demonstration against the arrest of a guy called Louis Eakes, who actually, what people forget now or gloss over is that Louis Eakes kept insisting that he wasn't gay, which was absolute nonsense. Of course, he was gay, but he was in the closet. But he'd been arrested for importuning another man. And I mean, John Lloyd can tell this story better than I can, but the Gay Liberation Front went and demonstrated. They decided they had to have a demonstration about something somewhere. So they went and demonstrated on Highbury Fields, having met up in the Cock pub, of course, by the station. And that was the first demonstration. It was covered in the Times. Wow. The very first gay demonstration.
So in terms of, because there were loads of issues going back on, you had Section 28, there was the HIV crisis, and what do you think are the really big issues today in the UK for LGBT people and also around the world?
Well, I think in the UK, our big issues are the ones that are there for everyone. We're looking at a government that's going to try and drive us back to austerity, which is disastrous and completely unhelpful. And we have to fight that. We have to fight the backlash, which is people like Liz Truss are desperately attempting to make life difficult currently for some of us. And if we don't resist it, it's going to be for all the rest of us as well. So we have to stand up against that backlash. And that's also going on internationally, the stuff that's going on in Poland, in Turkey. These are things that we have to stand up to. And carry on trying to help people in the countries where they're still moving forward with LGBT rights. So, but I mean, internationalism for our movement is much stronger than it's ever been before because of the internet, because of connectedness. We can see the appalling things that happen and we can fight against them globally. But I think we have to remember not to neglect what's going on in our own backyard. And there are plenty of people, even people who describe themselves as lesbian or gay now, who are really, you know, trying to do down parts of our community. And we have to resist that.
Are you optimistic?
I'm always optimistic. I'm one of life's optimists. My motto is history is for interfering with, you know, get out there and do it. I think there's always something that you can do. And I think pessimism is just, it's too expensive. You know, if you sit there saying nothing can be done, then nothing will happen. The whole history of our movement and of any successful social movement is a whole bunch of people who simply said, no, I'm not putting up with this.
Now, I was going to ask you a question on, yeah, if you had any advice for the LGBT community today, what would it be? But I think you answered it.
You know, well, I did get asked that as well on there's a Facebook group for queer women from Diva at the moment, and somebody on there discovered that this was something like pay tribute to your LGBT Elders Day or something ridiculous. So somebody decided that I was an elder, for which they were lucky it was lockdown, frankly. But, you know, I think the thing about advice from the elderly is, excuse me, half of us are senile. Quite a lot of people weren't that smart to start with. Don't just take advice from the elderly. Take advice from everyone. Have a look around you. I think the only thing that is really interesting and important to listen to from people over 65, like me, is listen to what we wish we'd done. Listen to what we regret not having done more of.
Yes. So do you have any regrets or things that you'd like to have done differently?
I'm not massive about regrets, but I would have liked to have done more travelling, even though as Secretary General of ILGA and later on working internationally in HIV work, as I did for a long time with Terence Higgins Trust. I've done a lot of travelling, but I still wish I'd done more. I wish I'd read every single book that's on my shelves, because I've got masses. We might have had 7 or 8 weeks in lockdown, but I've still got a damn great pile of books I haven't managed to read. You know, the things that I wish I'd done are the things where I didn't find the time or didn't have the nerve to. And that is, you know, you'll never forgive yourself if you don't do that stuff, because by the time you hit my age, some of it you can't do. You become more and more restricted as you go on. You've probably got elderly parents you've got to look after. And as a queer person, you're the one who's going to get stuck with the elderly parents to look after them, not the others in your family. I think, you know, it's really important that we do everything we can while we can do it. Seize the day. But that's not advice. That's just what I wish. You know, I wish I'd done even more seizing, and I've seized a few days in my time.
Well, I'd say those are really inspirational words to end on. And thank you very much, Lisa. That's
good luck to everyone. It's nice to see all your faces.
Yeah, and thank you for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa, you're amazing, I have to say. Right, Anthony, are you in the room? Because now I'm going to introduce the one and only Anthony. Anthony makes future-facing performances that explode on stage at the clubs and online. And it's a signature blend of stunning harmonies, wit and mayhem. He has toured internationally, wowing audiences from the Roundhouse to the Edinburgh Fringe, and now he's ready to entertain you with a very special performance for International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia and Biphobia. Anthony, over to you. Hello.
Hi everyone. Am I unmuted? Is that
you
working?
are.
Great. It's so good to be here. I have to say, it's so weird doing performances in the Zoom world because I miss the pitter patter of walking around the audience and having a chat with everyone. But thanks so much, Lisa Power, for that amazing conversation. It was so good to hear. So I'm Anthony. I make cabaret and performance, and today I'm going to sing a song for you. And I've been thinking about this for about 2 weeks since Forum Plus got in touch with me, and it's been a hard kind of choice to make. But so what I thought I would do is I would put this beautiful photograph up behind me. Do you see it, everyone? Ah, yes. So as you can see, this is an amazing landscape behind me through the beauty of green screen. It's almost like Eurovision. It's a beautiful photograph that a friend took of my dad's bog, which I know in the UK means something else, but in Ireland, it actually means a marshland or a place that we dig for fuel. It's a place that by magic of science or the fairies, you're able to keep butter fresh for a very long time if you dig far enough beneath the surface. So it's kind of an amazing kind of magical space. So the reason that I'm showing this image behind me is because I miss my home. And I'm not sure about everyone else in the room, but I'm not going to be able to get home anytime soon because obviously I'm from Ireland and my parents are quite old, and obviously this is really difficult for me. But the other reason why I'm showing this photograph is because it's from my hometown, which is called Roscommon. And for those of you, probably most of them in the room, who are unaware of Ireland's fabulous geography, Roscommon is a county slapdash in the middle of Ireland. And it's a very flat place, very, very flat indeed. And there are sheep everywhere. Now, I wouldn't say that I was one of those sheep, but it's it's a space that 5 years ago, yesterday, that the people who live there, my community, voted no in the marriage equality referendum of 2015, the only county in the whole of Ireland. And that's where I come from. So obviously this is quite a painful memory, but I think it's quite relevant to today. But it's also a memory that's quite nuanced and complex. It's one of these situations in my life that's informed the way I think about everything going forward. I can't necessarily say that the people who voted no in that referendum were wrong. Maybe they were misled, misinformed, or scared. I'm sharing you this story today because of the difficulty we still face as a community, especially for queer people in rural spaces. And that's kind of the corner that I really fight for as someone who's come from a very rural space. I'm always hoping and praying and working towards trying to make that space better for them in whatever work that I do in rural Ireland and in rural the UK, actually. So I'm getting to a song, don't worry, but I made a show about this experience of Roscommon voting no, about growing up in this rural space, and it was called Confirmation. Obviously, confirmation, for those of you who weren't indoctrinated by the church at a very young age, confirmation is when the Holy Spirit comes over you. Yeah. So this show was also about finding confirmation from within. And I know many of the people in our community, as vast as this is, you know, we haven't been lucky enough to square that circle yet. But I want to strike a tone of hope, despite this persistent damage that's been made by the government now with trusts and LGBT rights, in particular trans rights. And with some luck, we'll be able to keep fighting after the COVID crisis sort of wanes. I feel it'll be here for a while, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue to make positive changes with the support of Forum Plus. So I wanted to sing a song from that show, and it was written by a group of 12-year-olds in the same school that I grew up in. Now, it's not a kid's song, but it has a kind of a kiddish lyrical imagery, and it's really beautiful. It was written in the same school that became a voting station during the referendum. So it's actually a place where people voted no. And I think that's got a power. So the song is about a cow that escapes from a farm and dreams about creating a better world for itself. Now, it's very utopian, but I like this idea, and I think it's really necessary for today to have a little bit of hope. But I think a lot of people would consider the cow or the calf as something kind of weak, as femme. So I really like this imagery, as I see it as something brave and queer. So for me, the song is representation of positive action within the community, where two different very different forces come together to make something hopefully nice. So I'm going to sing it. I've set up my microphone, and hopefully that means the vocal will be good, but the music may not. But you'll have to just hear it anyway, and it'll be lovely, I'm sure. Okay, let's do this. Oh, I'm very nervous. Let me have a sip of wine. Okay. All alone. Oh, no, wait. We're going to go right at the start. Okay. This is technology, folks. All alone, and the journey was hard, but I faced it. I never liked those sheep anyway, peddling their silly little ways. And I don't want to go to the people. I want to find a place where I can smell Chanel perfume and trees are like Minecraft, and all I see is tall grass in every direction. And then I look and see a tree, I hear the birds, they start to sing. I'm going to the slaughterhouse, but I don't want to die. So I ran to the island. Yes, I ran to the island. It's my oasis to be, so I'll take it. Find a space and just disappear. No one ever comes round here. I'll cool my ankles in water, and I'll feel a little freer. But up ahead I see a man just like the ones I left behind, and full force into him I ram, and then I'm on my way. And suddenly I hear the screams, the people come, they start to shriek, the firefighters and police, the farmers and the vets. But I'll stay on the island. Yes, I'll stay on the island. I don't wanna die, nor run or hide. I don't wanna die, nor run or hide. All alone, and the journey was hard, but I faced it. I never liked those sheep anyway, peddling their silly little ways. And I don't want to go to the people. I want to find a place. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so thank you, everyone. So silent claps. We're like the royal family. That song was so interesting because I'd heard the story about a cow in Poland that had escaped from a meatpacking district, and it had escaped from a trailer and ran across an island, and had lived on the island on its own. And every time the farmer went to try and get the cow would like go at the farmer. And I just thought there was something really brave and beautiful about that, especially when you're a child and when you're trying to cope with your queerness and your magic and all that kind of stuff. So thank you very much. And that's it from me. Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Anthony, thank you so much. I'm going to do a proper clap here, but we're going to do a very big one at the end. So your style, what beautiful voice. And oh, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Because like usually when you're doing shows, all the time, your voice is like at its best. And I found in the last 2 months, you know, it's weird singing. It feels cathartic, but it's also like, yeah, I'd love if we were able to do it in real time. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Well, hopefully that'll be soon, not too far away. The sooner the better, I think. But
Yeah.
thank you, Anthony. And yeah, we'll give you all a big round afterwards. Okay, thank you. And now, I'm just going to go back to my script here if I can do this. Here we go. And now, I'd like to introduce our next guest, Hannah Hutzpah. Hannah is a writer and performance poet who's gigged everywhere from the Tate Modern to Occupy protests. Her poetry is funny, feminist, and often heartfelt. She has received 5-star reviews at the Edinburgh Fringe and has had 3 collections published, most recently Permeable, published by Burning Eye Books. We're very proud and blessed at the Forum to have Hannah as our host for the monthly Insight Poetry event we put on. And for the time being, it's going to be online. In the past, it has been at the Phoenix Artists Club, and we're going to be looking for a new venue when we're allowed back in the world. So, yes, Hannah, can't wait for the performance. So let's go. Take it away, Hannah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. So yeah, my name is Hannah. I'm a performance poet. I wanted to write something especially for the occasion, and I realized with about an hour to go that I had messed up my research. So today, Ida Hobbit, as it's sometimes shortened to, marks the event when homosexuality was no longer counted as a mental health condition in ICD-10. But I had misread that had happened in 2004 when Ida Hobbit was formed. And actually, it's that the classification was 30 years ago, and then Ida Hobbit was formed 16 years ago. So I wrote something about being 16 years old, which doesn't quite encapsulate what I hoped it would, but I think what I really wanted to look at was how progress grows and how sometimes it can feel almost ungrateful, that how a successful protest movement or how successful social change works is sometimes people who are on the wrong side of the history then want to pretend that they never were. And that is huge progress, but it's also sometimes slightly galling. My ex's dad was once watching some episode of Dinner Date, the goofy TV show at sometime in the 90s. And the one time it was 2 women, he stormed out of the room saying, "That's disgusting, that's terrible." And when my ex mentioned it to him much more recently, he not only didn't remember doing it, but insisted that my ex must have been wrong. He never would have done something like that. And that is progress, and it is also galling. So I've got 2 poems, one specially written and one slightly shorter I'm going to do after. But yes, with that conceit that I was wrong about 16 years, it's 30 years. Here we go. This progress, this event, is 16 years old. This progress is old enough to drive but not to vote, old enough to drink in pubs actually, as long as the drink is purchased with a meal. This progress can feel ungrateful, like the people who now know better. Insisting they never were on the wrong side of history, this progress will not say thank you for its existence. This progress wants a bigger allowance and to stay out later. This progress doesn't know how hard its parents have worked for it. This progress is newly cool and wants to burn all its baby pictures. This progress doesn't know how young it still is. This progress is above the age of consent now, hasn't yet learned how to tell an admirer from a predator. This progress is above the age of consent, knows it was a different age once, but the year 2000 was more than its lifetime ago. Raising this progress took a village, took a community, took a world, took countless steps, large and small, dragging the Overton window out of the closet and into the light, into hospitals, workplaces, registry offices, and national courts. This progress has tantrums and fuck-ups and a good heart. This progress has hundreds of siblings, younger and older, and usually remembers that they are stronger together. This progress wants to travel. Knows, like American backpackers with maple leaf patches, it would have to hide its true colors in 68 countries. This progress doesn't want to stay in one place, shouldn't ever have to stay in one place. This progress could now join the army if it wanted to. This progress feels bulletproof. It is not. Even though it sometimes slams doors around relatives, this progress knows its family tree. This progress has grown so tall in 16 years, is getting ready to go to new pastures. This progress will put down roots, might raise offspring of its own, which will grow up in a world so different they won't believe all the stories they hear about the world today. Change will sometimes feel ungrateful. Working every day to raise such different times that peoples whose hearts have been turned whitewash and paint rainbows over their pasts, our shared past. Pretend it never was like we remember. Pretend they were never opposed to equality. Pretend progress was always certain, always reasonable and respected. Progress was always this national treasure we see on the evening news, never a dangerous radical, a surly teen, a toddler moments away from disaster. This one piece of progress is 16 years old. This progress has hundreds of siblings, older and younger, and usually remembers that they are stronger together. Thank you. I can see the silent applause. And I'm going to read one much shorter one, again on sort of how movements change, and especially sort of landmark judgments. This piece is called Verdict. After fighting you every inch of the way, they will commend your bravery. When the mud has failed to stick, they will praise your dignity. If, despite their best efforts, you are still standing, they will pay tribute to your determination. Their crisp suits, their slick sound bites, their magnanimous smiles do not betray for a moment that they fought you, that they lost. History will record your heroics in their words. Brave, dignified, determined, and you are. But that is less than half the story. Cheers. Thank you. I've been Hannah Hutzband.
Hi Hannah, that's amazing. I can't believe that you were writing right up until the last minute almost. I think that is real skill. If I've got to write something down, I get writer's block from the very first go. So, and what beautiful words, and really optimistic as well. So, thank you very much. Yeah, and we will see you. Is it on the 27th? I think.
I'm just checking my calendar. Yes, it is.
Yes, 27th of May, and I think it's going to be 7 o'clock. So yeah, if anyone wants to come along, watch out for our. We'll be doing a mail out, and it'll be going on the website and stuff. So yeah, I'll be there, and I'll be on the other side this time and relaxing with a glass of something for sure. So, thank you, Hannah. Big round. Everyone give a virtual big clap for Hannah. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay. And now on to our last performance of the evening. We're really, really proud to have the involvement of the London Gay Men's Chorus at our event this evening. The London Gay Men's Chorus are not only the biggest male voice choir in the UK, but they're also the largest men's chorus in Europe. So there you go, massive. Anyway, tonight's offering from the band of brothers that sing for equality will be the perfect way to celebrate this year's theme of breaking the silence. I'm going to hand over to Simon Sharp, who will briefly talk about this evening's selection of music. Good evening, Simon.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you so much for putting this together. It was quite short notice, but we're really, really pleased to have you here, and thank you.
No, thank you, and thank you for everyone for listening. We're delighted to have the opportunity to support such an impressive cause. And as everyone, we're confined to our homes, and it's almost the antithesis of what we normally do. We want 200 people standing on stage together again soon. So what we thought we'd do, rather than talk about what we do, we've arranged a compilation so you can actually hear and see what we do. There are 3 songs, and you should all be up dancing by the end, we hope, and we can see you, so there's no hiding. But actually, we're going to start with a very powerful piece which we actually performed. It's become an anthem for us, really, but it began really in response to the awful shooting and bombing in Florida some years back, and we were part of the vigil on Old Compton Street, and we sang "Bridge Over Troubled Water," which we've since sung in several concerts, and it's become a really powerful piece for us. So the compilation begins with that, and then in the last couple of weeks we've gotten very creative, and 80 of our members have created a piece from their own front rooms. So we've done a performance of "Brave," which you'll see has been compiled by one of our members, Mikey Gahila. And then we're going to finish up by taking you to the British Fashion Awards at the Royal Albert Hall. So got to get your sass on and dance along to George Michael's "Freedom." And I think that'll be a lovely way to end this. It'll certainly break the silence, that's for sure. Oh, I can't hear you.
You can be amazing, you can turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You can be the outcast or be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. Or you can start speaking up. Nothing's gonna hurt you the way that words do when they settle leave your skin. Kept on the inside and no sunlight, sometimes the shadows win. But I wonder what would happen if you say what you want to say. The words fall out. Hey, honestly, I wanna see you be brave. What you wanna say, the words fall out. Hey, honestly, I wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. Everybody's been there, everybody's been stared down by the enemy. Fallen for the fear and dust from disappearing. Bow down to the mighty, but don't run. Just stop holding your tongue. Maybe there's a way out of this cage where you live. Maybe one of these days you can let the light in and show me how big your brain is. Say what you want to say. The words fall out. Hey, honestly, I wanna see you be brave. What you wanna say. The words fall out. Hey, honestly, I wanna see you be brave. And since your history of silence won't do you any good, you think it no. Let your words be anything but empty. Why don't you tell them the truth? Say what you want to say. The words fall out. Hey, honestly, I wanna see you be brave. What you wanna say. The words fall out. Hey, honestly, I wanna see you be brave. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. Freedom. And then
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the most ridiculous and camp ending to any award show that you will ever see.
Yes.
But it's going to be utterly brilliant. She wants you to sing along.
Yes.
This is for you, Dame Natalie Massenet. It's